What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Main Street Fire Rescue. It's Matt, and it's a Tuesday afternoon, late February. Before we get started, I wanted to talk to everybody real quick and just say thank you. Thank you for all of your support, all of your subscriptions, all of your comments in the comment sections, your engagement with the channel, the likes. Everything that everybody is doing is just fantastic. I really enjoy reading through the comments. And the one thing I'm going to say, though, is just a personal opinion of mine. Because there have been some comments basically about the last, well, not the whole lot, just one really, but in the Splash Mountain 2.0 vlog, somebody talked about, you know, making, I might read it if I have time near the end of this thing, but talking about, you know, a company having to, what was it, make racial bias right, or having to fix racial bias. Again, if you're going to put stuff like that and you're going to, you know, make racial claims and stuff like that, I don't care, but you got to have something to back it up. Like, why do you feel that way, or what makes it that way? And to sit there and say, well, because the mainstream media said so, is not going to work. Like, I want your own thought on this. You know, I gave everybody my thoughts on why I think Splash Mountain should have stayed and why I think it was one of the best attractions ever created. Not only because of the thrill factor of it, but because of what it represented. If anybody's ever seen Song of the South, which sadly most of the people that are making negative comments, and again, it's your right. That's why I wanted this channel. I don't care whether they're positive or negative. I want to see ideas from both sides here, but if you're going to make a claim like that and claim that that's a racial ride or it's got racist tendencies, you got to be able to back that up. And I need good, hardcore evidence. You know, I don't ever come to an argument without something to back up what my argument's going to be, if that makes sense, right? You have to be willing to stand by what you're saying and not just blurt it out. You know, for example, one of the last few nights Splash Mountain was open, I was watching a live stream, and one of the live streamers had their kids with them, and one of the younger girls was sitting there spouting off to the live stream, oh, I'm so glad they're closing Splash Mountain because it's such an incredibly racist ride. Now keep in mind, if you go back in their live streams, they rode Splash Mountain quite often, and not one time did you ever hear anybody say anything about how racist of a ride that was. They were having a great time, might I add. And nobody said a word. But amazingly enough, when it gets ready to start closing, they start jumping on this bandwagon, which is what a few people are on right now, or were on. And they were on the live stream talking about, I'm glad this ride is closing because it's a racist ride. And their words specifically said, I've never seen the movie, and I don't know much about the story of Brer Rabbit and the Adventures of Uncle Remus and Song of the South, but I've just heard that it's bad. And so they're basing everything off of what they heard, and they have no original opinions on it. So I don't care what people put, but if you're going to put something that makes that big of a claim, you got to back it up. That's all I ask. Just give me a reason why you think that way, and we may have a debate, but that's fine. Life is all about debate. So anyway, I just wanted to get that out. Thank you again for all your support. Again, the Splash Mountain video is doing really well. I wasn't sure how that would go, but I'm happy to see it doing well, and I like the engagement. I like people's comments. I like reading the comments, and I promise you I will try to engage more, and I'll try to answer as many comments as possible. Again, I do work 2 full-time jobs, and I'm trying to do this and everything else, so as much as I can, I will try to, you know, engage in the comments with you. If you have any questions, please ask. I'll do my best to get back to you, okay? All right, with that being said, I feel like today's topic is going to be kind of it's not going to be an easy one to talk about, but after reading a post on Facebook, and I keep seeing more and more like them, I think it's necessary. I really do. This goes beyond Splash Mountain topic. Like, this is stuff that, you know, sadly I think a lot of people want to ignore that exists, but it does exist, and in very large numbers, and it exists at Walt Disney World as well as the other theme parks. I'm going to stick mainly with Walt Disney World because this is where this incident took place. But you have to apply this to wherever you go in Orlando, specifically any of the theme parks. You know, just because you're on vacation doesn't mean, especially as parents or even kids, you can't let your guard down. You always got to be looking around 24/7, because there's always people out there that don't have the greatest intentions. And I'm trying to figure out like the best way to talk about this, because sadly it's one of those things that if the algorithm or whatever picks it up, they can ban your channel, take your video down. They don't want people talking about it, because, you know, my thing is, if it's a topic they don't want people talking about, it's probably something worth looking into. You know, and what I'm talking about is the trades, if you know what I mean, the SE trades, that. And it's a big one here in Orlando. And once again, I'm talking about the S and the E. You know what that letter is, and then the trades, or the bad eye for traffic. Bad eye for traffic. That, if you pick up the words I'm saying, that's what we're talking about today, and it is a very big problem around here. And what I keep reading through social media, again, more specifically through Disney, because I feel like a lot of these people that come to Disney World come from these little quaint, rinky-dink Midwestern or Northeastern or some little town where the worst thing that happens is somebody might run a stop sign from time to time, or you know, slow down for one that's got the white, or not slow down for one that's got a white border around it, because, you know, those are optional. I feel like that's the worst thing that happens in these little towns where people live, and they come down here and they think that, oh, it's Disney World, it's perfectly safe. And while it is a safe place, it is safe. They have it very well handled, but there are people everywhere these days with bad intentions. And when we're talking about the trades, that is a big problem here. In fact, Orlando sadly ranks, I should say Orlando and the theme parks sadly ranked third. That's 3 in the entire country for this stuff. I'm not sure where it falls in the world, but the statistic I got, well, I had to take a class on this back when I first started working here in Orlando in the emergency services, because it is such a problem here. We have to look for the signs, and just to see if this is happening to somebody and they silently are calling out for help by using the emergency services. So there was a big class on this, and one of the first statistics put out there was Orlando is third in this whole thing. That's a shitty ass statistic to be number 3 in. As it gets closer to 1, it's further to South Florida. Again, you people, you have to be careful. And where we're going to start this off is, especially for parents, one, if you're coming down here on a Disney vacation, you have to have a plan. And what I mean by a plan is know where your kids are at all times, and don't sit there on social media and brag about how cute it is. Well, I see it all the time. Well, my kids are runner and I can't control them. What should I do? You control them, and if you cannot control them, you discipline them. That is still a thing, discipline. I know a lot of people don't like to do that because, oh, God forbid, a child experience something unpleasant, but that's why kids are running all over the place, because there's no boundaries. There's nothing. They're not afraid of doing anything wrong, because the parents are just like, oh, look how cute that is. He's running 100 yards ahead of us. You know, you cannot do that here. Again, you can do that in your little rinky-dink podunk town, and I can say that because I used to live in a rinky-dink podunk town, little town in Indiana. Had a couple stoplights. You know, big events were the Christmas time parade, and then we had a big summer festival. You know, I mean, that was the big times. And it was a little town, and you could kind of, you know, you could leave your house, leave your front door open. Hell, my captain did it all the time. But everybody knew everybody, and you didn't have to worry as much. But down here, where you're among millions, there's all kinds of people just looking to prey on unsuspecting tourists, and sadly, that's what happens down here. They know people are down here, and they're not in that frame of mind, and they're just like, oh, no, you know, and that's who they go after. So this, again, what started all this was I was reading through this Facebook feed, and I don't know if I mentioned this before, but this article aside, there is a group on Facebook called Walt Disney World Tips and Tricks. Now, if you ever want pure gold to read through. When I say pure gold, it's like this stuff writes itself. I mean, a comedian could take what's on this Facebook thread and they would have comic material for years to come with what's in this. Like, the dumbest of questions get asked in here, all the way down to, how do you know when it's going to rain in Orlando, to gee, do you think the parks will be crowded today? It's Christmas Day. I mean, it's Christmas week. Are the parks going to be crowded? Like, it's just questions that most people should know by common sense. And it gets even worse. Maybe one day, as I get this vlog going on more of a continual schedule, like if we upload certain days continually, we'll throw a day in there. Maybe we'll call it Disney Degeneration or Disney Degenerates of Facebook, and we'll read some of the crazy things people ask about, because they get pretty wild. This one does not fall into that. This is something that's pretty serious. And again, when I talk about people, when you come on vacation, you need to have a plan in place. Where I'm talking about lost kids. If you or your child should become separated, you need to have a plan in place. Now, the theme parks have a very good system. I've used that system, having worked in the parks before. Again, in the emergency services, I've helped unite many kids with family members, because it is, when you have thousands of people around you, things happen, even when you're trying your best. But what the kids have to understand is that when you are in giant crowds like that in an unknown place, it is not acceptable to run away from mom and dad or from whomever's watching them. And that if they do that, there needs to be severe consequences, punishment type things. That, I know people don't like that nowadays, but that's what has to happen, because the alternative is not pretty. It's very easy for a child to disappear in a large crowd. And in fact, these trades groups walk around these theme parks in big packs, and they look specifically for people that have their guard down. And again, this class I took was an eye-opener. It was really sad. It was really sad. The statistics and the stories that they show and the videos, and I mean, it's awful what goes on. And the fact that this stuff is it's just smoothed over mostly. We try to pretend like it's not a thing, but it is a very big thing. And so this story came across, so I'm going to read this, all right? So this was basically written yesterday, but he said, and this was at Magic Kingdom, it said, a lady lost her child in Magic Kingdom. It was absolutely awful to witness. I really hope he was found. People were looking for a good 15 minutes and nobody could find him, and the park was packed. Yes, the parks are like busier than Christmas this week. Again, people keep finding money, I guess, in the sofa to keep coming down here and keep spending thousands of dollars. It is insane this week. Every attraction at Animal Kingdom had over a 100-minute wait this afternoon. I hope they found each other. Every parent's worst nightmare. Yes, that would be every parent's worst nightmare. I'm not a parent. However, I can't even imagine the feeling that would happen. But I will tell you this. The worst thing that parents do is they panic. And again, I've dealt with this. I get it. They want to run out and look for this kid. The problem is when you have when you have a panicked parent and then you have a panicked child, they're both going in God knows what direction. The first thing that we do is you have to get that parent under control and get them in one place. Usually it's the first aid station. That's where they'll set up like a base for a lost child. To get the parent in one place, and then they utilize all the paramedics in the park, all the security members, anybody that's basically not doing anything at that very moment stops, and they put out a BOLO, be on the lookout, of the child's description. And they'll say, child about 4'2", wearing a light blue Mickey shirt with tan shorts and black sneakers, and is about a certain weight. Parents, know your child's height and weight, please. I cannot tell you how many times I do people's triage sometimes in the emergency room. They don't know their kid's height. What the hell, man? Like, how do you people not know this stuff? Like, that's a perfect example. I need to look for a kid approximately 4'2". Now, do I know what 4'2" looks like standing there? I don't know exactly, but I have a really good idea of about the height that's going to be. You know, like parents, you got to know this stuff. The weight and the height, you have to know this shit. Why they don't know this, I have no idea. It's just laziness is all, honestly. But perfect, you know, and a description to the T, the hair color, the skin color, you know, as descriptive as possible. Any blemishes they might have on the face, on the skin, anything they do, if they walk, you know, a certain way or they carry themselves a certain way, you know, eye color, again, shoes, whatever they're wearing, all of this, all of the best description imaginable, and obviously a photo helps too. And what they do is they put that description out on a be on the lookout, and it goes to everybody in the park. And then they commence to looking. Now, personally, what I think should happen, and it never will, but the minute a child goes missing, all of the entrances and exits to the park stop. Like, just stop. Nobody in, nobody out for a minute till we get this child located. And the reason why I think it would be ideal if you shut down the entrances and exits, it would definitely deter people from, you know, if they're trying to kidnap that child, you know, trying to leave the park, that could help. Or if a kid was running, you know, run out of the park. So, I don't know, just me. Don't think they'll ever get to that, but it would help. So anyway, best description you can imagine, and what they're wearing, and where they were last seen. Most of the time, the kids are returned within, it's usually 5 to 10 minutes. Sometimes it can go longer. But again, the longer it gets, the more scarier and more dire it gets, because then at that point, you're wondering if this isn't a kidnapping case. And usually when that happens, one of the things they showed us, sadly, in this class, is if kids are snatched, it's done in the blink of an eye, and it's usually when the parents are looking at their phones, not paying attention, and before you can even realize what's going on, they're out of the park. Like, they have this whole network together where they all work in tandem. I mean, it's disgusting, the fact that this shit goes on, but they do it in such a way that even with the best security cameras, these people are impossible to find, because they're so fine-tuned at what they do. And that kid is sadly gone before anybody even has a chance to react. You know, by the time the parent realizes, oh shit, there's somebody missing, my kid's missing, they could be halfway, you know, down I-4, which is, again, it's freaking horrible. But this is the reality of the world we live in. So you have to keep your child with you, and I don't give a damn if he is a runner or she is a runner or whatever their problem is. You know, I feel like parents will find every excuse in the book to justify their kids' behavior. You cannot do that here. This is not the place for that. That child has to know right from wrong, and it is very wrong to separate themselves from mom and dad. And it's also very wrong for mom and dad to constantly be distracted by their freaking phones or whatever else they're doing. I see it all the time. I'll be walking through the Disney parks, and you'll see this child running 50 yards ahead of the parents, and they're on their phones and laughing. Oh, look how cute it is, and they're taking photos and they're doing whatnot. And what they don't realize is at that moment, that kid, somebody that's out there watching could snatch that kid and be gone before the parents would ever have a chance to react. And the thing is, if that person's running out of the park with a crying kid, they're just like, oh, the kid's overtired. Cast members don't know that. Yes, I'm sure they're trained in it, but realistically, how many of them are out looking for that? The majority, I hate to say it, the majority of the workers at Disney now, the cast members, are in their late teens, early 20s. They're not tuned for this stuff. You know, they just don't have that mentality yet. And even still, Disney teaches these people that you can't engage people. So it's like, all they would be able to do is say, oh yeah, there's somebody running with a screaming kid that way. And then by the time security or Orange County Sheriff's Office would be there, it's over. And so that's the sad reality of this. And so basically what happened was there was over 600 plus comments that came along. And the amount of times this happens is disgusting, you know. I was in the baby care, this is a comment. I was in the baby care center during Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party. Cast member brought an 8-year-old boy who got lost trying to follow his parents in the dark in the rain. You know, what do we do? Why is an 8-year-old following their parents in that kind of a situation? You know, why isn't the 8-year-old in front of the parents? You know, basically it said that within 8 minutes they had them reunited, and they can use the magic bands. But what the other thing is, This was another. Oh, they say, oh, I'll just put an AirPod or AirTag or whatever it is on my child. People, you got to realize, if somebody's gonna do the worst thing imaginable and snatch a child, you don't think they're not looking for that shit? That thing's gonna end up in a trash can somewhere, and you're gonna be trying to locate a trash can. I mean, the first thing they do is look, and that was part of the training. They look for any sources of identifiers or tracking devices. Those things are gone within seconds. Again, you got to get out of your little small town thinking and start thinking big city shit, you know? It's just how it is. But then there was another one. We lost my 3-year-old for 8 minutes in Hollywood Studios. Again, 3-year-old. How are we losing kids like this? You know, Sharon is named the manager across the park. She had me stay put so they could bring him to me, which is that's the right thing to do. Basically, they were reunited. Let's see. Oh, there's another one. We lost my 6-year-old at Magic Kingdom during a nighttime show. Same thing. They were reunited. This one person, I would put Apple AirTags and phone number bracelets on my kid. I'm telling you, people, they're looking for that shit. I mean, if the kid just wanders off and gets lost, that stuff is fantastic. But if it's the other thing, forget it. That's the first thing to go. 6-year-old got separated from us in Magic Kingdom, walking out of a show. Longest 5 minutes of my life. Jesus. 6 and 7-year-old ran off from us, found a cast member. They were reunited. Got separated from my family during Electric Light Parade. 3-year-old son got lost for 10 minutes in Animal Kingdom. Again, how is it? What are these? It's the parents just not paying attention is a lot of this stuff. The other one, and it goes on and on. There's 600 plus comments of this. Lost my 3-year-old, lost my 5-year-old, lost this, lost that. Again, part of it is the problem with Disney is you have to be on your phone technically if you want to have a decent experience, meaning you have to be constantly looking for the next thing you want to do. That's partly an operational issue that Disney has, and it does distract people. But also, parents have to understand that beyond riding any rides, the safety of your child is paramount. But they don't think that way. And so that's how this shit happens. And plus, again, kids are not disciplined like they were when I was growing up. If we ran off, my God, we paid the price for it. You can believe me. And that price was having a hard time sitting down for a couple days. But you had to learn what's right and what's wrong. And I can remember I got separated from my mom in a grocery store. I was probably 4 or 5. Now, she obviously had her eye on me, but she kept telling me, Matt, you gotta stay with me, you gotta stay with me. And I was out just, I was looking at I would never forget, I was looking at the soda pop bottles. That was back when everything was in glass. I was mesmerized by the colors and everything, and looking at all the soda pop. And my mom had walked away, but obviously kept her eye on me, and the store wasn't that busy. So when I turned up from the soda aisle, I didn't see her, and it freaked me out. I went into this panic mode, and she come around the corner, and she's like, "Did you learn your lesson?" Never did that shit again. And so, but nobody wants to do that because, heaven forbid a child be uncomfortable with something, that we have to make everything easy for them. And the other thing I want to talk about, I wish I would have saved this Facebook post on this group, but I did not. But I will tell you, this husband and wife couple should be absolutely publicly shamed for what they did, because again, it's small town thinking, okay, in a very vast place with a lot of people, and of some that don't have the best intentions. They were talking about how this was right around the Christmas time, right around Christmas time last year, just this most recent Christmas year. And they were talking about how they were both exhausted pushing their 2 kids in the stroller, and out of nowhere, this wonderful younger couple, very nice man and a very beautiful, elegant, lovely woman came up and said, "Oh, do you mind if we help you take care of your children? You just stay behind us and we'll push the stroller for you. You take a break and we can show them some of the really cool sights and everything you might not know about." And these dumbasses said yes. People, I'm going to tell you right now, if there was ever a way of how any type of trade trading takes place. That is it right there. If you've ever watched, and I think it should be mandatory, especially for people that are parents, everybody should have to watch the movie from last summer called The Sound of Freedom. And I know the mainstream media went after it, calling it, you know, all kinds of names. Y'all, that stuff is real, man. That's how it works. If you've all seen that movie, the first 5 or 10 minutes shows just how fast these kids are taken. Just instantaneously in the blink of an eye. And how fast they move them through these networks. And the parents never see them. And the chances of recovery are incredibly small. I mean, very small. If you've never seen the movie, I highly recommend you watch it, despite what the mainstream media told you, because it has a very good message and a good purpose, and it brings to light the disgusting, horrible act that this crap is going on in our country and around the world. It just, it makes me so angry that this is all going on. And people try to ignore, well, you know, they just act like it's no big deal. Or people, they want to try to think it's a big deal, but they don't want to acknowledge that it exists. Well, I can tell you it does. And that movie especially, it's an incredible, very powerful movie. And it was based off of a true story. Obviously, there were things injected for Hollywood's sake, but it was based off a true story where a guy went overseas and rescued a couple of kids that had been, caught up in the thing, and the whole movie showing how how that went about was just incredibly powerful. But the whole reason these kids disappeared to begin with was it was by a very lovely woman who talked to their father and said, what beautiful children, and they're offering a talent show and they could be on the cover of magazines and movies and make him a lot of money as they grow older because they're so beautiful, and convinced him that she was part of this talent agency. And he dropped them off, and she said, we don't want parents here because we don't want them being distracted. So he left, and when he came back in a few hours to pick them up, where he dropped them off was completely wiped out. The room was empty. Everybody was gone. And with what this story was like with this mother that put on social media about this, thank God this story had a happy ending, that they were literally pushing their kids around the park, maybe to give them a break. But the problem is that's how this shit starts. It starts out with usually a very beautiful woman who's got this very mothering approach and calming voice, and then a guy that's with her acts like her husband or boyfriend, and like they're just this couple that they just want to help people out, and they try to get a sense of the parents' guard and where things are at and what they can get away with, and then depending on how they feel about it, they'll go one way or the other. This one, they ended up, I guess pushing these kids around for a few hours and showing them things, and then they ended up leaving them back to the parents. Again, thank God. But I'm telling you, people, if you are ever at a theme park or even outside of the theme park and a couple comes up and says, let us take care of your kids for you, you better start asking them questions and say, no thank you, we've got this, we're just fine, but I appreciate you asking, and just leave it at that. But you cannot let this stuff happen. And then I think the other part is not one in the hundreds of comments that got, not one person outside of myself, and of course they jumped on me for it. I'm the only guy in there that's got any common sense sometimes, but they jumped on me about it because, how could I be so mean and hateful and all this stuff, and this was just a loving couple who wanted to help out a family that was stressed and in need with taking care of their kids for a few hours. I'm like, people, wake up. Wake up. This is the year 2024. So, anyway, just, again, sorry for getting a little animated on this, but I can't help it. This is a subject that, really, it just hits home because the fact that all this is going on, and that, one, there's not enough resources to do what they really want about it, but also the fact that it just keeps getting glossed over all the time. It just pisses me off to no end. Again, I don't have children, but if I did, I can tell you what. One, if they ever try wandering off from me in a public place, there'd be discipline. Maybe not in the public eye, But there would be discipline, and they would learn real fast. You don't do that ever again. You stay right next to mom and dad, even if you have to put something on them. I'm not a big fan of those leash things, but hey, in a busy place like that, you got to do something. You got to keep your kids close by you, and don't walk in front of them, for crying out loud. Put them in front of you. I see it a lot still, even with young toddlers. Parents are like, da 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 da, and there's a toddler dragging ass 20 feet behind them. Saw it at Hollywood Studios right again at Christmas time. Parents walking, looking at the phone, looking for the next Genie Plus Lightning lane to reserve, and there was this 4-year-old walking about 50 feet behind him. And on top of that, the 4-year-old was staring at a phone, so he wasn't even paying attention. So now you got the parents not paying attention, and you got a kid not paying attention. You talk about a recipe for flipping disaster. I mean, it's mind-boggling what you see when you go into these theme parks and you look at everything. Because obviously when you're not here on vacation, you live here and you visit the parks, and then you have a emergency service frame of mind, or like somebody that be in the military or a police officer, fire, rescue, nurse, anybody that's in any type of public service. You look at things differently when you're in public. And when you look around and you observe people, you're just like, my gosh, people are like, they're just in their own world in a sea of thousands of people, and they just think it's fine. Everything's fine, and it's not. You need to have fun while you're on vacation. I get that, but you have to have a plan. It's just like the fire drills, like what we do during Fire Prevention Week. And that was one of my favorite weeks of the year, because I got to go into the schools and teach kids all about fire prevention. And I had such a great time with it with my other fellow firefighters that used to help me with that. We had a great time. But one of my things I'd always drive home to these kids, and from the smallest kids all the way up to the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th graders, have a plan in place, practice that plan, and know what to do if there's ever an emergency, and stay calm. The reason shit goes south so fast is people freaking panic. Nobody has that, and I understand people that aren't in emergency services, they don't really develop that sense of calm. But the other issue we have now, especially when there's a man in the group, the man who's supposed to be the calming force is actually more amped up than the woman if he's with a woman, whether it be his wife, girlfriend, or whomever. I read newspaper articles about it all the time. There's, in fact, a video vlog I might upload from an incident that happened at Animal Kingdom right before Christmas, where a ride broke down, and the one that was the most panicked was the damn husband. And that was in the news article. Like, that should not be. The men are supposed to be the calming force, not the ones running around like maniacs. And now, and unfortunately, that's what's happening. And then the women have to like handle everything, and the man's out there sucking his thumb, going, I don't know what to do. Oh, guys, we got to do better. We got to do better. We got to be men again. We got to take charge and stop being little bitches. I'm sorry, but that's how it has to be. We've gone so far the other way because everybody's so afraid of toxic masculinity that we've pushed men now into their feminine, and the women are now being pushed into their masculine, and it's got everything all effed up. We got to un-eff it and get it turned around the other way again. That's another discussion for another day, but especially if there's a man involved in this, he's got to be the one that keeps everybody on even keel and get shit handled, and keep the panicking to a minimum. Because again, when you panic, nothing gets done right. No decisions get made right, nothing. So you have to, 1, have a plan in place, what to do if you were to accidentally get separated. 2, immediately find a cast member or a team member or whomever, whatever park you're at or wherever you're at, find somebody in the immediate area, stay in one place, and have a meeting spot set up, which usually the parks will arrange that. Like I said, usually it's first aid. First aid is the base. When I worked at Universal, we had a lost kid. If it was at Islands of Adventure and we were back by Jurassic Park, we would go to that Lost Continent medical base back there, or the first aid station, and that's where base was. And everything would branch out from there. And parents kept in one place, and there would be times they'd have to almost restrain them because they'd want to go run out. They kept saying, you're not going to do us any good if you're out running around, and then we find your child and now you're lost. You know, so you have to stay in one place. So all of that together, and then on top of it, remaining calm. Try to your best to stay calm, think with a clear head, because that's when you need the most clear and concise information. So please, what do you all think about this? Leave me a message or note in the comment section. I know this isn't the greatest of topics to talk about, but unfortunately, this is something that none of the Disney and/or theme park vloggers will even dare to touch. But I will, because one, years of experience in emergency services and having dealt with lost kids in the theme parks as a theme park employee, you know, paramedic in the parks, I know what goes on. And part of the training of working in a theme park, again, the hospital training I had about the trades was very in depth. The kind you get in the theme parks is decent, but it was nothing like the one I got, you know, before I started working in the hospital, in the ER. And it just, it makes you almost want to cry because of how prevalent and how well known it is, but yet it's just looked away from, you know. And the problem is the people that do this work so fast that it's so hard to catch. And I think that's what's so tragic about the whole thing is, if there's a child or children that fall victim to this, the chances of getting them back are I mean, you've got to be on this shit immediately. Otherwise, it's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking because of how good these networks work, and it's sickening. So, one more time, plan in place. Stay with your kids. Kids right by you. Kids ahead of you, not behind you. Make sure everybody has a safety plan in place, and make sure everybody knows how tall everybody is, their weight, you know, any type of little thing that stands out from everybody else, and what they're wearing and their shoe wear and all this other stuff. Like, all of that plays a vital role in all of this. And I'm sorry, but if you are one of these people talking about how, you know, when's a good time to visit Disney when it's not crowded because I can't control my child, a theme, not just Disney, but any type of public place in a large setting is not for you. You need to wait till that child is better disciplined, because I'm sorry, but you're going to be one of these people that we're talking about. Because, you know, while you think that that's hilarious that you can't control your kid, that's just what these sick freaks are looking for. Is exactly what they're after. So, again, not the place for you all. You got to get your child under better discipline before you come to a place like this. And I know that sounds mean, but I really don't give a shit, because sometimes people have got to hear it. And I know they don't like hearing it, but they got to hear it, because nobody wants to just say it how it is. Sometimes they want to dance around it, be gentle. No, when it comes to this stuff, there's no gentle. There's just, you got to hit people straight between the eyes with this stuff. So, leave me a message in the comment section what you think about this. Good, bad, ugly, indifferent, good topic, bad topic. But I think it's got to be discussed. It had to be talked about, because we're getting into that big season now. You know, spring break's coming up. Heavy. I mean, crowds this week are insane at the theme parks. I mean, every wait today of 60% of all the parks had over 100-minute waits. So people are like, they're everywhere. So just, you know, again, please be careful. If you're coming down here, enjoy your vacation, but please be careful and don't let your guard down. Take care of your family. Please take care of your families. And also teach your kids how to fight. Say straight up, like we were taught about strangers, you know, what to do if you got approached. I mean, that was basic learning. I don't know if they even teach that anymore, because, you know, gotta be gentle, you know, everybody's a nice person. Bullshit. They taught us how to fight and how to get away from a bad situation. And so should your kid. You know, that, yeah, I mean, granted, they're small, there'll not be much they can do, but a well-landed buy in one place might buy you just a split second enough time to get out of there and get a little head start. Or just that that yell that they teach you, you know, yell and scream and, you know, get somebody's attention. Like, they got to teach kids this stuff, because, again, this is real. And this could even strike in a small town. You know I was talking about small towns earlier, but again, it could happen in a small town. Look how many sick freaks they end up finding that live in these small towns. So you got to constantly have your eyes on all sides. And again, teach your kids how to deal with this stuff. and they got to understand that life is hard and it's full of all kinds of pitfalls. Yes, it's enjoyable, but there's a side of it where you've got to know how to hold your own. So anyway, thank you all again for watching, and I hope you all got something out of this. Again, I obviously don't want to fill the whole channel with vlogs like this, but this has to be out there, and people have to know about this stuff. Because you know, although we only have a little over 400 subscribers, eventually we're going to keep growing. And what I want is messages like this to get out to the thousands, the millions. Like, this is the stuff that people need to realize what goes on, or what could potentially go on, and what to do about it. You know, how to prevent it from happening. That was always my thing in the fire service. How could we prevent this from happening? Granted, you can't prevent everything, but you can have an idea that way, if whatever you're training for comes along, you've got a plan in place and you know kind of how to deal with things. So don't just shove your head in the sand and be like, oh, it ain't gonna happen to us. We're fine. We're good. We're good. When you start acting like that, things are not gonna go well. So thank you all very much again for everything. Again, I hope you all got something out of this. I really think people should get something out of these vlogs, you know, even if it's something small. And one of the other things I want to start doing in the near future is, you know, educational vlogs like this. Now, I don't want everything to be as heavy as this one is, but I think people should know how to do things, even down to first aid. You know, what should you do if you have a loved one that gets a cut or a bruise or trips and falls? What are things to look for? When is an appropriate time to go to an urgent care or emergency room? And when is a time when you can just treat by yourself and get back to whatever you were doing? You know, all stuff like that people should know or have a general knowledge on, I think. And I'm going to help bring that to you all. We're going to have a lot more fun in the days and weeks to come. If I can get out to the parks tomorrow, we're going to be in the meat and potatoes of this week. It's going to be Wednesday. We still have the President's Day week going on, plus people are arriving for the Disney Half-Princess Marathon later this week. Holy shit, people. It's going to be nuts, and I'm going to bring it all to you, and we're going to show you what people are getting for the thousands of dollars they're spending this week. Thank you once again for all your support. I'll see you all again very soon. Main Street Fire Rescue, out of service. I'll see everybody.